Football season may be over, but we got the second half of NBA basketball remaining. One thing you guys may not know about me, basketball was my first passion. It is an honor to be able to actually cover it on YouTube. And to start it off, I will be fielding questions from Instagram. If you want to be a part of videos like this in the future, make sure you guys follow me at all socials, link in the description. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. One of the most asked questions was, what was my finals prediction? It may be a boring pick, but I'm going to stick with Boston because they feel like more of a solidified contender slash champion. Because when I look at the field, OKC is young, and I think they're still a year or two away from like being legit championship contenders. But right now, in the current moment, I still think that they're one shooter away. And again, with the experience, I think they need to have some more playoff heartache and learn from those mistakes in order to be a champion here in the future. And then you got Denver. The Nuggets were looking strong going into the All-Star break. The thing for me is Jamal Murray and MPJ. Are those two going to be able to help Joker in the playoffs? And we've seen that happen when they went on to win the championship a couple of years ago. But the question is, can Jamal Murray consistently be a second option? And MPJ, can he consistently knock down shots? Cleveland, I like what I've seen in the regular season. I just have concerns on whether or not we'll see that in the postseason. And then New York's defense is really lackluster. Combine that with a lack of depth. So there's some concerns across the board for New York. But Jalen Brunson, Cat, I think that they can make a run. It's just whether or not they can beat Boston. Boston has been their kryptonite so far this season. Also, to go back to the poor defense of the New York Knicks, Mitchell Robinson should be back here in the second half of the season. His health is going to really indicate whether or not the Knicks can make a run for the finals. Because if he's healthy, he gives them that rim protection. If he's not, then you're forced to play Cat back at the 5. And although Cat is probably better in terms of spacing offensively, defensively for this team is not a good look. Is Luka Washed? No. Don't let the Dallas Mavericks fool you. An overweight or an unconditioned Luka was busting a majority of the league's ass. So in the second half here, I believe we're going to see a motivated Luka who's going to remind the world of his greatness. This next question comes from my boy Devin. He asks, do you think a player 6'3" or under will be drafted first overall ever again? I would say yes, but right now the league is really highly coveting two-way wings, but let's not undermine the value of having an elite point guard. You look at Steph Curry, you look at Kyrie, Ja, Dame, CP3, Tyrese Maxey, and Trae Young right now. Those are all elite point guards, and they're very important to their team's success. Now, when it comes to being drafted first overall, it's highly important to having an elite point guard. You look at Steph, he's the GOAT shooter. You look at Ja, he has elite athleticism. Kyrie, GOAT shot maker, GOAT ball handler. Those qualities can't be undermined because they're just as important as having a long two-way wing. However, it just depends on the draft class in a certain year, along with the philosophy of the organization picking first. Shout out to the homie Marty for this next question. He's a big Sacramento Kings fan. His question was regarding the Sacramento Kings, what's their short-term and long-term ceiling? Short-term, you're looking at a play-in team. I feel like the Kings are the West Coast version of the Bulls from a couple years ago, except that DeMar and Zach LaVine are a little bit older. The jury is still out on whether or not Keegan Murray is better than Patrick Williams or if they're just about the same player. You guys don't have a facilitating point guard. I don't think that's necessarily bad because Malik Monk can score with the best of them, but I have questions on whether or not the offense can be run smoothly. We'll see here in the second half. And Sabonis is a better big than Vooch. This is a team that will compete night to night, but in terms of contending for a championship, I just don't see it. And then for the long term, I don't have faith in this team to actually contend in the West because it's stacked with talent. So I see them being a rebuild project or a lottery team coming up. More than likely, they're going to move DeMar and Zach and maybe even Sabonis because you got to restock on draft capital. And it sucks because just a couple of years ago, this team was promising. De'Aaron Fox looked like the franchise star. Mike Brown was just coach of the year. And then just like that, they're going to be moving forward without both of them. Now I'm going to take the Clipper questions. One thing about me, I am biased about my team. First question is from the homie Jaden. What direction do the Clippers go after the Harden Kawhi era. So what I've seen from the Clippers Twitter community, the plan is going to be to have 2 max contracts by 2026. We already know there's going to be a ton of free agents then. We got Dame, KD, Trae Young. So you got a couple of aging stars, some talent that could be available if their current teams don't agree to a deal. We can't rule out a trade. I would love to have Ant in a Clippers uniform. I just love Ant. I think he's a great player and he is the future of this league. As for the reality of this idea, it's definitely possible because we have a ton of deals that will be expiring that offseason. So I do expect this team to make a play to build their next super team of sorts. However, I want to build through the draft. I'm tired of just getting these free agents who are here for like a couple years. I would prefer if we get a star from the draft, but obviously that takes time. You don't necessarily always hit. Also, we don't control our draft destiny for the next couple of years because of the Paul George trade. So going all out for free agency is the play here. Next Clippers related questions from Mario. With Clippers finally having their own home, think they can make a deep run in the playoffs? So with the Clippers fan in me, I do hope that we can make a deep run, but knowing my team well, I would say the chances are slim, only because it depends on whether or not Kawhi is going to be healthy and if he's playing at his usual level of play. And then we just have so many offensive struggles. There's times where it is difficult for this team to score. That leads to having high turnovers. So I believe with the offensive struggles, it does make it a bit difficult, but this team plays excellent defense. And as you mentioned, having our own arena now, Intuit Dome is electric. And I believe in a postseason environment, it's only going to get better. So back to Jaden's questions. I'm going to answer those back to back to back. Who are your top 10 players in the league so far? In no particular order. I'm going to go SGA. 2, I'm going to go Ant. 3, I'm going to go Luka. Although he hasn't played much this season, as a Clippers fan, I know what he's capable of. 4, and I believe this guy kind of gets a bad rap, although he doesn't deserve it. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is a two-way player, and he's a leader. He's a dog. 5, I'm going to go Jokic. Jokic is the best big man in basketball right now. 6, I'm going to go Giannis. At 7, I'm going to say KD. KD is the best scorer of all time. Next, I'm going to go Steph, GOAT shooter. 9, I'm going to say Braun. And 10 was difficult because it could go either way. There's so many great players. But I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown, the current NBA Finals MVP. And I understand, oh, he doesn't have a left hand, all this and that. Jaylen Brown, he'll lock up your number 1 and then he'll give you 30. What can the NBA do to market their product better? If I was in charge of the NBA, I want to market towards the younger audience because they're the future of basketball fandom. I think the NBA has to embrace more rivalries and there needs to be more passion from the players. Regarding the rivalries, I don't want any baby rivalries like the ones between Memphis and Golden State, Phoenix and Denver. To me, I want a full-blown on rivalry. And it doesn't have to be fights and brawls. Like, I just need to see that the players care and that they try to bust each other's you-know-what. I like that the players are cool with each other, but I want to see some passion. I want to see some intensity. MJ and Kobe, they were cool with guys afterwards and before, but when it came to being on the court, they took it serious, they played hard, and you saw that it mattered because you had those rivalries. Who is your favorite sleeper team for the playoffs? I would love to say Orlando, to be honest. I like Paolo. I think Paolo's low-key, no, not even low-key. He's high-key the most underrated, underappreciated first overall pick in recent history. And then you got Franz Wagner. He's a great Robin to Paolo's Batman. And I would love to say them because I think they can shock the world and pull off an upset depending on if they could get into that 4 or 5 matchup. So instead, I'm going to go with the Memphis Grizzlies. I called it coming into the season. I thought they were going to be a top 3 team in the Western Conference. Right now, they're the 2nd seed. John Morant is an excellent player. I thought he was going to have a major bounce back year. Jaren Jackson Jr. is having an incredible year as well. And overall, this is a young team who finds themselves as both a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense. And that helps their chances of potentially reaching a Western Conference Finals. It's just going to be a factor of whether or not the team can finally get over the hump. Thoughts on the Warriors' playoff chances with Jimmy? I think they're going to be much better with Jimmy than without. With that being said, I think their ceiling is a second round appearance. However, when you have Steph, sometimes You just need the team to be just slightly better. That way, you let the greatness of Steph Curry take over from there. And then maybe, just maybe, he can uplift them and take them further than where they should be. Very great question by my guy, Kevin. Is Steph Curry in the top 10 all time? I feel like we got to break this down in order for me to get to my answer and explain it clearly. MJ, Kobe, Bron. Those three easily in there. Next, we got Magic Johnson. To me, Magic is the greatest point guard of all time. And that's really who Steph's chasing. After Magic, I'll take Kareem. A lot of people kind of undervalue Kareem, in my opinion. Kareem won at all three levels: high school, college, pros. I think you gotta throw Bird in because him and Magic changed the trajectory of the league. Without those two, the league wouldn't be where it's at right now. So we gotta give Bird his flowers. He has to be in the top 10. I think Tim Duncan needs to be in there. He was strictly about business. And every time he was on the court, the Spurs had a legitimate chance of winning the finals. Bill Russell, no matter who he played against, you can't take away the fact that he won 10 championships as a player and one as a coach. You can't take that away. So he has to be in the top 10. Shaquille was the most dominant big man of all time. He has to be in there. I think it comes down to Wilt and whether or not you take him out and you put in a Steph. And I would say yes. I love Wilt. He allegedly scored 100 points. And you can't take away the fact that he won a championship and he's one of the most influential big men in the league history. But with that being said, it's Steph. Chef, look at Curry, man. Shout out Flight. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. He changed the game. You look at the league now, that's why the league is so three-point heavy. If this was like the early 2000s, a lot of people will look down on Steph because he didn't have the size. But he changed the game. He gave people who are not as tall or as long as the wing players a chance to be in this league. Now, in order for you to have success and to be in the league, you gotta be able to shoot. He changed the game, and that's why I would put him in the top 10. But I honestly want to have a more interesting conversation and say, should it be Steph or KD in the top 10? Because as I mentioned, KD is the greatest scorer of all time. I think, to me, the reason why KD, when it comes to the fans, doesn't get placed in the top 10 is because he's very polarizing. But KD's greatness, I feel, is underappreciated at times. And it's because of his journey, how he got to his championships. But make no mistake about it, when he was with Golden State, although that was Steph's team, from an emotional and leadership standpoint, KD was the best player. KD won back-to-back finals MVP. And the Warriors lost in 2019 largely because they didn't have Kevin Durant. So I believe Steph or KD in the top 10 is a more interesting question, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. We're going to close it out with a little bit of a finals prediction and awards prediction. I'm going to start off with my finals prediction. I'm going to go Celtics and Nuggets. I would love to see OKC and SGA reach the finals, but Denver is clicking, as I mentioned. Boston is Boston. They're a stacked team, and although they're second seed right now, I believe they're pacing themselves. And in the second half of the season, with the easy strength of schedule remaining, I believe they're going to get their footing and they're going to make that final push to go back to back. Now, as for my award predictions, let's start off with the MVP. Give me Shea. He's clearly the best player in the league this season. I believe he had a streak of over 20 plus games, scoring over 20 plus points. He just scores so effortlessly at times. He's beyond his years. And he's got OKC in the position to reach the finals. Rookie of the year, I'm going to go with Stephon Castle. The reason why I went with Castle is because the Spurs didn't want to trade him for a reason. And that's because he has star potential for them at that point guard spot. Sixth man of the year, give me Peyton Pritchard. Instant offense off the bench every night. And he's one of the main reasons why I feel confident that the Celtics can go back to back. I will say DeAndre Hunter could overtake him for sixth man of the year, depending on whether or not he can stay healthy. Next, most improved player, come on now, is Norman Powell. And I've seen some people say Cade Cunningham, and that's valid, but Cade Cunningham is the number one overall pick. So I expect him to get better, but to me, it's gotta be Norman Powell. And it might be a little bit of Clipper bias. That team would be a top 6 seed right now in the West if it wasn't for him and his improved play. Next, we got Defensive Player of the Year. It's gotta be Wemby, right? This man on almost every possession is dictating to opposing offenses what they're going to do. If you're on a fast break and Wemby is the last guy, you're seeing guys go out to the three-point line and take threes rather than go up for a layup and try to draw a foul. And then we can't forget the fact that I believe he's recorded a block in every game that he's played this season. Come on now. Wemby is for sure the defensive player of the year. Coach of the year, give me Kenny Atkinson. Because me personally, I didn't have high expectations for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I thought that they would be middle of the pack when it came to the East. Give him credit. He's got them in a position where they can reach the conference finals. And with the addition of DeAndre Hunter, maybe they could upset Boston. And then as for the all NBA teams, I'm not gonna lie, this is difficult. So my first team, I got SGA, Ant, Jokic, Giannis, and this is probably gonna be the most controversial. I got Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was playing well, so I think it's well deserved, but I feel like he could be swapped out for someone else. And then second team, I got Tyrese Maxey. I know Tyrese Maxey is not on a winning team right now. If the Sixers didn't have him, the Sixers would be a lottery team. So there you go. Donovan Mitchell is balling right now. He's got Cleveland as the number 1 seed, so he deserves credit for that. I'm going to go with KD. And again, same with the Sixers. KD is doing a lot for that Phoenix team. And by just having him on the court, it's giving them a chance to win every night. Next, I'm going to go Wemby, because Wemby's having an impact on both defense and offense. And to close it out, I'm going to go with Cat, because I believe Cat is having a great year. And for the third and final team, this was the one where I had a lot of trouble. Initially, I had Cade Cunningham because he's playing unbelievable. He has Detroit where not a lot of people expected them to be right now. Instead, I went with Devin Booker. I feel like his season has gone under the radar because the Phoenix Suns are struggling so much. Next, I got Jalen Brunson. He's someone who deserves the recognition for sure. Next, I gotta go Bron. It starts with Bron in LA. And although they just got Luka, I still believe that Bron has a similar impact on the Lakers as a KD and D-Book. Next, I went with Jaylen Brown. That's my guy. He has an impact on both sides of the court as well, so it's hard for me not to go with him. And then from the big man of my third team, I ain't gonna lie. It's really between Sabonis and Evan Mobley. I feel like Sabonis deserves the nod because he's putting up really good numbers, but then again, winning matters. I would be upset if Mobley got the spot over him. Overall, I think you can switch some of the spots that I predicted on for the All-NBA team. It's difficult. I don't know how the voters do it. Because there's just so many great players right now. I feel like I didn't even include Trae Young. Kyrie deserves some recognition. I didn't even put Steph. Like, that just shows you that the league has an embarrassment of riches right now.